Hello, welcome to Drumfills Café. My name is Denis, and welcome to another fabulous episode of the English side of Drumfills Café. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Tonight, of course, before we start, I would like to invite you to go check out the YouTube channel, the Facebook channel, and Instagram channel of Drumfills Café, to have a like and subscribe, and of course, to check out the website for Drumfills Café, drumfillscafe.com. Tonight, I have two of my favorite drummers. The first one is a professor down in Charlotte, North Carolina. He has studied with Joe Morello, performed with some of the greats, such as Aretha Franklin and Ray Charles, and has been the professor of percussion of University of North Carolina at Charlotte since 2001. Since the pandemic, he's been very prolific on YouTube, teaching stuff about the Nard book, Wilcoxon studies, and you name it. He's done many series about it. I would like to welcome to the show Mr. Rick Dior.
Hey, Denis. How's it going?
I'm good. Thank you so much for saying yes to our show.
Sure, my pleasure.
So how's it going? You were saying you've become very busy lately again. It seems that everything's coming back for you.
Yeah, a couple months ago, we started opening up. And so it's right now, it's pretty much at my regular playing and teaching level since before the pandemic. And I just finished a month of a show called Wicked, which is a Broadway show. And it was sold out every night, and no one got sick, and everyone was wearing masks in the pit and in the hall, which was a little hard to play with a mask and everything else. But yeah, we made it happen. I was really happy about that. So it was a good run. Yeah.
Well, that's cool that it's coming back. Here in Canada, it's coming back as well, slowly but surely. But it's good to know that over there it's coming back as well. So that's nice.
Yeah, I think people. I mean, the virus is here, and it's not good. But I think that people are just going about their business, and I mean, some are vaccinated, some aren't. So those are just choices people are making. But yeah, there is a lot of live music, and I play with the symphony orchestra too. And we're starting up again this week, so we'll see how that goes, and hopefully we can maintain it.
Sounds good. We have so much to talk about. I want to start with a bit of the beginnings for you. You're from Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah,
and you started your music career at 13, which is impressive. What was the scene like back in those days when you were 13, playing around for those shows?
Well, I mean, I started playing when I was around 8 years old, and I was really fortunate because I had great teachers from the beginning. There was a guy named Jack Winters. He was in New Jersey, and he was just not a well-known drummer, but a really knowledgeable professional drummer, played all around the area, and he was a great reader. Just a really good musician. So I was very fortunate to study with him at a young age. And I didn't really get my first drum set because we couldn't afford it until I was around 12 years old or so.
Okay.
But my hands worked really well because I'd been studying, for about 4 years,
Right.
just really working through all the, standard rudimental snare drum books and all stick control and accents and rebounds. And, back in those days, that's what you did for the first couple years.
Yeah.
And then, so when I got a drum set, immediately within a couple months, I was functioning on it, and then my teachers would have me sub for them. And that was kind of a novelty because I wasn't a real big child. I was probably 4'11" at the most. And so it's like this little kid playing with these, these adults. So that went on for a while, and I was playing, weddings, and I started playing with a big band when I was 13.
Oh, wow.
Professional big band. And I learned a lot, obviously. But at first it was kind of a novelty for a lot of these these folks. But then as I grew up, it got much more serious. So
It was
yeah,
the talented little kid who can play all this stuff.
yeah, yeah. Which is that still happens. You always have the
Yeah.
but a lot of those kids, and I've had some students like that who were little prodigies, and sometimes they fizzle out, and sometimes they go on to do great things. So I was lucky; I didn't fizzle out. So and that's because I had great teachers. So, but yeah, I moved to New Jersey. I went to high school in New Jersey, in Edison, New Jersey.
Okay.
A great band director there, a guy named Andy DiNicola. He's still there, actually.
Wow.
He's kind of an institution in himself, and has taught so many great musicians. And the culture up there in up north in the States is, at least back then, was extremely strong as far as live music. Great musicians, obviously New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Philly. So again, I was just really in the right place at the right time, and it was the late 70s, 80s. So all the rock stuff, I was in a Led Zeppelin cover band for a year, and I was in like 4 or 5 bands at the same time. I was just always playing, and so yeah, that's pretty much how I started out. And then I auditioned for. I went to Eastman School of Music for summer.
Okay.
And that's when I got sort of hipped to classical percussion. I'd done it in high school, but not at a high level. And there I studied with a great teacher, Ruth Kahn, which is Bill Kahn's wife. Bill Kahn was, you probably know Nexus because you're in Canada. Bob Becker's in Toronto.
Okay.
And that's a great percussion group. And Bill Kahn was in that group. And
okay.
And his wife was a great percussionist and teacher. So I was really fortunate again to be able to do that for quite a while. So
you started with both, basically, with drum set and classical percussion.
Yeah, I didn't. I did. Hold on one second. Sorry.
That's okay.
I'm doing this interview, sweetie. No, you don't need my wife. Sorry.
We'll just edit that part out.
Yeah. Okay. No, just.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Anyway.
But yes, as we were saying, you started with drum set, but then ventured out, of course, to classical percussion.
Yeah. In high school, I was doing some of that, but not on a high level. And so I wanted to go to a music school, conservatory. And to do that, you had to play marimba and timpani. You had to audition on it. And I was going for the big schools like Eastman and Manhattan and Juilliard and, Cincinnati, all these different schools.
Right.
I wanted to go to one of those because I had known people in New York who went to those schools. They were really fine players. And but I wasn't really a mallet player I played some timpani, but I didn't even, at that point when I was a junior in high school, I barely could read treble clef. I could read anything on snare drum or drum set, but I wasn't reading the clefs,
That's often the case with a lot of drummers.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will admit that I'm one of those. I can get by. I can do the scales. I can do all that stuff. I can look at a chart, and I can have an idea. But yeah, it's not my favorite. It's not my best quality.
Yeah, and at that point it was all kind of new to me, and so it was kind of a crash course. So I my parents bought me a marimba. They were awesome. And I basically practiced 6 hours a day for a year and a half. That's all I did to be able to get into these schools.
Right.
So I took auditions and I did well. And Manhattan School of Music offered me a really large scholarship.
Wow.
And so I ended up going there because we didn't have a lot of money. So I wouldn't have probably gone to college if I didn't get a good deal of help.
It's quite an impressive school because I was looking at the people who went there. You got Ron Carter, Harry Connick Jr., for instance.
Yeah.
Some alumni or Steve Gadd. I mean, it's quite renowned.
Well, Steve Gadd didn't go to Manhattan. He went to Eastman.
Yeah, but apparently he's an alumni or he's coming. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure, but I know he went to Eastman.
Okay.
Because, for sure.
Okay.
But anyway, that another great school, and but yeah, Manhattan was a great. That again, luck. You know, a lot of this is luck. I walked in there. I was 17 years old, and they were just starting their jazz program. That was the first year, and they didn't have any drummers. And I was there for the classical program. My teacher was Fred Hinger, who was the timpanist for the Philadelphia Orchestra, and then he left to do the Metropolitan Opera. And at that point, he was in the Met. It was his last 2 years in the Met.
Oh, okay.
And you know, he was training me to be in an orchestra, a timpanist or a percussionist in an orchestra. He didn't even know I played drum set. In fact, he didn't know until my senior year when he found out that he came to a concert, or someone told him I was playing with the big band, and that's a whole nother story. But but anyway, so I was there for a year, and I played with the big band when it started. And then the next year, John Riley came to do his masters, and Rich DeRosa came to do his masters, and a great bass player, Todd Kuhlman, came, and Drew Gress, another great bass player, came. So all of a sudden, you had this influx of people trying to get their master's degree so they could teach, you know, at William Patterson and different schools, Jersey City State. Because the faculty, you'd have to have a master's. Now it's a doctorate to teach on the faculty at that point. So they were all getting their masters so they could do that. They could do those gigs. So like I said, it was great. So I played alongside them, and also Bob Mintzer was there. That was his first year, and he had the Bob Mintzer big band. So Peter Erskine would be up there rehearsing.
Wow.
We had this room 610, which was the top floor of Manhattan, and the whole Bob Mintzer band would be there. So the Brecker brothers and Marvin Stamm, who I ended up playing several gigs with after that, into my adult, you know, my later adult years. But a lot of guys that, you know, I had heard of, but I'd never seen them in person. And I'd go to those rehearsals, and, you know, Frankie Malabe, who I ended up staying with a little before he passed away.
Right.
And Barney played bass, and Lincoln Goines was these just incredible, the best musicians in New York. Definitely. And I would just sit there and just kind of just watch right back at me. trying
to absorb everything.
Bob was cool about it, and I was in a little combo with him and Todd Kuhlman. So like I said, I was 17, 18 years old, and I was just in the right place at the right time.
That's amazing.
If I would have gone there 2 or 3 years later, I wouldn't have had that opportunity.
Yeah, no, exactly.
The program split. At first they were together because they were trying to fill out the jazz program.
Right.
But now it's completely separate.
Okay. From classical to jazz is different.
Just like Juilliard and most of these other schools are completely separate. Yeah.
That's amazing. One other you didn't mention that you had the pleasure to study with is Joe Morello.
Yeah. So Joe, here's a funny story, I guess. Cut me off if I go on too long. But so when I was about 13, I started playing with this big band. It was called the Joe Carson Big Band, and they were in northern New Jersey. And I played with them till I was about maybe 18 years old. And at first it was a novelty, and I had played some big band in school and high school, but I wasn't very good, I'm sure. And anyway, when I was about 15 years old, you know, we were playing maybe 5 or 6 times a month, and there was this one gig we did a couple times a month. It was on this docked ferry boat. It was like a club, and Joe went there to hang out. And you know, I didn't know Joe. I knew of him, of course, but it wasn't like I was, you know, a huge fan. I mean, I'd had Brubeck records, and I listened, and I obviously enjoyed him and thought he was amazing. But so anyway, I'm playing a gig one night, and one of the sax players comes up to me and says, Joe Morello's out there. And I said, oh. And I said, you know, maybe I can go meet him. Where is he? And and before that happened, the guy said he wants to sit in. And I said, great. You know?
Wow.
And so, you know, Joe was blind by that point. His vision had deteriorated to the point of basically blindness. So he wore these dark glasses. And, so he came and sat in. I think they just did like C Jam Blues or something, because, you know, it wasn't like he was going to read a chart.
Right.
But he sat on my set, and he played. It was amazing. And I just sat there, and Then he went to get up. I said, "Man, can you please play another one?" I said, "Watching." So he ended up playing 2 or 3 tunes, and
Cool.
and he played. Then they gave him a solo. And he played the whole. It was, and people, it was just so great. And then afterwards, I was talking to him, and he didn't actually. He thought I was an adult, so he was.
Oh, right.
Joe would do this thing where he'd take off his glasses, and his eyes were white, so it was
Okay.
a little weird. And he'd look at you. He could see up really close. He looked at me. He goes, "You're just a kid." And I said, "Yeah, yeah, I am." And he says, "Well, you need to come over and hang out with me." And so he had this studio he taught out of was Glenn Weber, who was a drummer in New Jersey, West Orange, I think, or East, one of the Oranges in New Jersey.
Okay.
And so I went there. My mom would drive me, and I would be his last student. Wasn't really a student at first. I would just go, and we'd play double drum set at first. That's what we did.
Okay.
And then I said, "Joe, man, I'd really like to study with you if you have time." Because the way his hands worked, I'd never seen anything like it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And I'd studied with some really great technicians. I was in drum corps. I back then the drum corps style wasn't as stiff as it is now. It was much looser, and
Oh, really? Okay.
the drums were different. And we played on these TDRs. It wasn't the material, the heads are. Everything was different in the 70s. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So I said, "I really want to study with you." So then I ended up studying with him on and off for the next, I don't know, 10 years probably. And we remained friends until he died. And he came down to Charlotte a couple times and did a clinic one of the times and visited. And just a beautiful. For those of you out there who don't know him, he had hundreds of students really, but just such a beautiful person. And when I started driving, I would drive down there, and then after we were done, we'd go out to this Chinese restaurant, and he had his dog. He always had these beautiful seeing eye dogs and dogs. And he'd bring the dog, and the dog would sit under the table, and then we would just talk about everything. And that was just great. So we'd do like a 2-hour lesson. And Joe had this, like, he was always running behind. So like if you went for an 8:00 lesson, it wouldn't start till 8:30. So a lot of times I didn't get home till midnight, and I had school the next day. My parents were luckily pretty cool with it.
That's very nice.
And it was great. I mean, like I can't say enough about him, and it wasn't the kind of lesson that you go and he assigns you stuff with me anyway.
Right.
It was more we played. He had just master studies. He was working on it, and it was about to come out. I think it was in the early 80s at that point. And we would do stuff from there. We'd play a lot of double drums, and mostly we talked a lot. I'd play stuff for him because he studied with Charlie Wilcoxon, and he had heard Billy Gladstone play. I was fascinated by Billy Gladstone because everybody in New York would always say what a genius he was. I knew some guys who played in Radio City with him, and how incredible his technique was. Like apparently the greatest technique. I mean, even Joe said that. So we would just talk, and he'd show me stuff that he back then, I guess he could see, and that he had heard, and all these different techniques, and we work on stuff. I'd work on stuff, and it was more of almost a thing where I'd play stuff for him, and he'd comment on it, and when we played stuff together, it was never the lessons that I had when I was earlier. But I didn't study drum set with him. We just Joe didn't really teach drum set. I don't know if he taught I don't know what he did with his other students. But with me, it was just we played together, duo and trading and just playing different grooves. And that's the way it went. So he was more of a friend than anything to me. And I sent students to him up until he died. All my good students, I'd send them to New York or New Jersey, and they take a couple lessons from him. I think that was just really, really good for them. So,
well, it sounds like a very, very positive influence, and not necessarily like do this and let's not take Whiplash as an example, because that's
that's complete.
Let's not go there.
My language bull. That whole thing is disgusting to me.
I know. Let's not go there.
Please. I mean, that has nothing to do with reality at all.
I know. Most drummers agree with that one. But to close the parentheses on Joe, it sounds like a very positive influence and more of a passing along of experience and stories and that sort of thing than
Yeah, well, I try to do that. I mean, with my students, I see those guys like Joe and Buddy Rich and all those guys back then. There was a lot of people that you probably never heard of in New York had great technique. Everybody had great technique. Like you would never go see a gig, like a jazz gig, and see someone with bad technique, because to get those gigs, you had to play. The competition was so fierce in New York that you had to play great, or you wouldn't work.
Right.
So that's I consider that the old style of technique, and I try to teach that and keep it going. What I see today is from students who audition for me, and it just doesn't resemble anything that's a musical technique.
Well, that's what one of the points I wanted to talk about because now you're an educator. You are a professor at North Carolina, University of North Carolina since 2001. And yes, today we are bombarded, if you will, by YouTube and all these channels and all these Instagrams of here's my lick and here's the stuff and da. And I have my take on it, but I'm curious from your perspective as an educator, sort of still showing the greats, the classics, the Wilcoxons, the master studies and whatnot. What's your take on all this information overload?
Yeah, on one hand, I think it's amazing and it's great because, now anybody from anywhere in the world can have their talents displayed. I mean, it's an incredible thing, incredible tool for learning, teaching. And of course, my students do it too. I think what gets lost is the actual art of playing the instrument. It's more like a shtick. Everybody's got their little act they do. But after that, it's just, there's nothing. So if someone wants to have a long career, their whole lives, they're not going to make it doing one particular thing. Even, Charlie Watts just passed away. He's the longest lived guy in a band that I know about.
Right.
And he did the same thing basically for all those years, but those days are over. I mean, that doesn't exist anymore. To make a living, because cost of living is so high and so much different from back then, you've got to be able to do a whole bunch of things well, or else you're just going to get a day gig, which is fine. I mean, you do what you got to do, but you won't be playing full time and all that. So I think a lot of those players are really talented. I've seen amazing things on that. I don't do Instagram because I feel like I can't get my point across in a minute a lot of times.
Right.
But I'm more dedicated to actual teaching the total world of percussion and technique and making sure that my students, to the best of my ability, are, if they choose to try to play for a living, are going to be able to. And that means all styles, all instruments, as much as you can do, by all instruments, I mean all percussion instruments,
right.
Drum set, all styles. And again, I'm not saying anything bad about some of those players. They play, very fast and impressive, and they do their drum covers and all that. But the problem is there's not a fundamental foundation there that anything is sitting on. It's just they're copying stuff, but they've never really studied it. So they may be super talented where they can see something and copy it, but eventually that doesn't work, because you'll go on a gig and they'll put a chart in front of you, or you'll have to play quietly and really fast and quiet, which is something I do all the time.
Right.
And they're not going to be able to do it, and then they're not going to work. And so, but then again, you can make money doing those things, like having a YouTube channel or Instagram, I guess. But eventually you're going to run out of ideas, unless you have a deep fundamental pool to draw from.
Right.
You're going to run out of ideas to post, and it's over,
Well, I think you've answered what I was about to say, which is, do you want to become a star, or do you want to become a professional player?
Yeah.
In the end. And I think that's what you're trying to say, in a way where if you want to do this, and do it well and do it, with all the right tools, you just have to study. You just have to study.
Yeah. And the thing is, you can look back, like I've have all the modern drummers. Okay. So I've gotten the first one in 78 or whatever it is. and I love that magazine and all the drum. I think those magazines are great and they're a great source of knowledge. But you can look through it and like there's thousands of people and like what happened to all these people?
Right,
Like,
right.
I mean, like they were playing with some band and the band broke up and they just disappeared.
Right.
And I know what happened to a lot. I mean, I'm not going to talk about it here, but some have studied with me, so I know what happened to a lot of them. And the problem is, if people who want to be a star, they got to realize that, yeah, you might be a star, put that in quotations, for a month or a year or 2 years, but eventually, that flavor is going to get stale and there's going to be someone new. And you're looking in music, you're looking for longevity. You're looking for, you want to die playing. There's no retirement in music.
No, for sure.
One of my favorite, like Roy Haynes, God bless him, he's 96 years old. He's still playing.
I know, he's still going. I know.
And that guy's a history of jazz, basically, of everything.
Right.
From the beginning to the, and that's just crazy. But the whole thing is, if you want a career, that you have to have a deep, fundamental knowledge of the instrument at all levels, and then you'll play till you're dead.
Yeah.
Basically, and never have to. And then also health-wise, if you play correctly, like my hands, I play every day for 6-7 hours.
Wow. Okay.
And teaching, and I warm up every day in the morning for an hour. And my hands feel great, and I'm getting close to 60 years old. So I feel like I'm going to be able to play forever. And if you learn good technique at a young age and correct, you can do that. So all those guys, if it wasn't for Buddy's brain tumor and Joe, up until the end, he could play his ass off.
Right.
He could smoke me when he was 70 years old. I mean, I still just does, because that's the whole thing with technique. So a lot of these folks, I mean, again, I'm drifting off topic here, but
that's okay.
A lot of these folks who want to be famous, that's all good, but just like in showbiz, that's unless you're a great actor who's versatile and can do a lot of different roles. It's just like music. It's going to end pretty quick.
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on quickly, we got about another, I would say, 8-10 minutes. You've performed with some of the greats, with Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles, Bobby McFerrin, one of my favorites, Randy Newman. How did that come about? What's your tips for playing for such people?
Well, I've been really lucky again. A lot of this is luck. In New York, I was in with some really good contractors. In Atlantic City, where I lived for about 4 years, I had a house in Atlantic City that I rented and an apartment in New York. I'd go back and forth almost every day. And I played some of the showrooms there and all. So if you get in with contractors, then you get to play all the big acts. Now, here in Charlotte, I play with the symphony. And so over the years, a lot of big, like Randy Newman was here 4 or 5 times. Everybody's been here. I mean, I can go down the list. Sometimes I play drum set with them. Sometimes they bring their own, and then I'm playing percussion. That's what happened with Aretha. The contractor would hire me when she was in this part of the Southeast. So I didn't play drum set because Bernard played first 3 or 4 times, and then I can't remember, some young guy was playing the last 3 times or so. And I played percussion, so vibes, congas, timpani. And James Taylor, I did a couple gigs with the symphony with him. Okay. And and on Ray Charles, I played a lot of these industrials with him, percussion, and that was fun because Ray liked the percussion right in back of him. He liked the sound of the drums and the percussion. So Steve Terry's brother was playing drums, I remember. Okay. Steve Terry, the great trombone. I can't remember the drummer. I can't remember his first name. I apologize for that.
That's okay.
But I mean.
But how would you prepare for those shows?
You don't prepare for them because there's one rehearsal and you go.
Oh, there you
go. Basically, have to have the skills before.
Right.
You go. You don't get music ahead of time, and you're expected to be a great reader and a great improviser, and have big ears and just do it. There's no. The preparation takes place in the 10 years. Right. Or so before you're doing anything like that. So, yeah. Awesome. Now the Broadway shows are different because.
Well, yes, exactly, because you do Broadway shows, and one that I really like from your YouTube channel is you actually go through Wicked from start all the way through, explaining what you have, and actually playing the parts seamlessly, it seems, in one take. And it's very, very impressive. Anyways, it looks like it, but it's very
Well,
impressive.
I mean, so I did those videos for a couple friends. One is doing it now. Actually, John Beck's son is playing it in North Carolina. So I did those because these guys, they had never played the show before.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to make sure they had something to look at, because if you've not played that show before, it is scary hard.
I've seen you move left, right, back, hit the tubular bells, hit the timpanis, go back to the tubular bells.
And you know, there's nothing hard in that show technically. It's just the choreography and knowing what mallet to have and how things work. Some shows, I mean, I've played literally probably 100 of these Broadway shows. They all come through, and I play almost all of them. And some are really notey and really hard xylophone, and but that Wicked in particular is hard because the setup is really big.
Mm-hmm.
And every little percussion thing is extremely important. You can't hide. It's super exposed. Everything's a big solo. The conductors are great, but they're very strict, and they want things the way they want them. And they'll tell you if you know, in uncertain terms, if you're not doing what they want. So that run through basically was me getting reacquainted with the show after about 5 years. I see. But yeah, those shows are the most challenging thing that any percussionist will ever play. They're all completely different, and they all have their traps, and they're long, and you're on your feet for 3 hours at a time.
Right.
And you just got to be able to concentrate and have all kinds of hand percussion skills and mallet skills and timpani tuning skills, and you know, there's a lot of skills. So a lot of folks make a living I'm sure in where you are in Montreal. There's a guy or a girl or lady or whatever who plays all the shows that come through that work for the contractor. And so you're not doing, it's not like you're on Broadway. Like Andy's been doing it on Broadway forever. So he's, you know, so these guys know the show, and they got all the room they need to set up. But we're told how much room we have to set up, and we have to change our setups a lot of times. And it's the most challenging job to do that. And that, to me, it also pays the most. but that, to me, that's the true test of a great percussionist, playing those shows with one rehearsal sometimes.
Wow, really?
That's it. That's all you get. And it's sound check. Yeah.
Crazy.
So,
I'll put a link to in the description for the folks who want to know what we're talking about. But yes, it is. But it seems fun as well. Once you do know the stuff and you go on the show, I mean, you get to hit all these beautiful instruments, and it's just you know, going to, like I said, tubular bells, to these xylophones, marimbas, whatever, and it's beautiful. So.
Yeah, it's a good thing. And real quick, when I got to the gig for Wicked, we had a rehearsal. And I was sure that the conductor was going to come up to me and say, if he saw it, take that stuff down, you know?
Oh, okay.
Because, you know, I was pretty sure I was going to have to take everything down.
Okay.
Right away. And then he came up to me and he goes, hey, I saw and I go, say no more, I'll take it down. He goes, no, leave it up. he goes, I'm going to use it as long as we can before they make us take it down, which to me was really gratifying.
Okay.
Because it wasn't, I mean, I wasn't that far off, I don't think.
But for off playing the show, you mean?
Well, because all the conductors have their different versions
of it.
So they'll make you change this or that. So, yeah.
Cool. Let's talk about you teaching some more, because I've discovered you through YouTube. And what I believe, we've touched about this a bit earlier in the interview, but what I believe why I'm sort of fascinated by your channel is because you take a series, say the Master Studies, for instance, the Wilcoxon book, and you actually go through it and you explain sort of the solos, the exercises, and you actually play them. You go into details. It's very, how can I explain this? Like you said, there's no flash, there's no nothing. It's really good, solid information about the book, about the series, about how to do it, how to accomplish the solos. And it's very refreshing. And I kept watching you during the pandemic. It's like, oh, I think I want to go back to the Will Coxon book because I didn't see that part the first time I went through it. So yeah. So talk to me about you doing that during the pandemic. What was the
well,
genesis?
I mean, right away, there was one day we were the symphony, we were doing Star Wars. We do a lot of these films and the music, and they show the films. And then all of a sudden someone comes out and says, we're done. And that was it. We shut down. And that was 2 years ago, whatever. And so I'm like, I lost all my work in a day, everything for the next, I mean, I was booked a year pretty much at a time forever. And that was it. Completely. So I'm looking at this empty calendar for the first time in my life that I can remember. It's like, what the hell am I going to do with myself?
Right.
Because I'm a workaholic, so I'm always doing something. And I said, well, I can practice now. So I started doing that. I started practicing 8-9 hours a day again. And I started offering online lessons. And at first I was doing it half price. So I was doing that for a while, but I still had all this time, So I started making more videos. I had the channel. I used to post stuff for my students starting in like 2011. So I had the channel, it was up and running, and it wasn't monetized. And I probably had like 1,000 subscribers or something at that point. And so I said, let me just do this because I got so much that I can do that I've been wanting to do, but I've never had the time.
Right.
So I just started doing the Will Coxon stuff. And right away I heard from like Adam Nussbaum and Kenny Washington sent me an email.
Oh, wow.
A lot of folks, who, like, it was amazing. And that inspired me. To Clarence Penn, another one. These drummers I really, really, really admire. And a lot of them, Adam and Kenny, I grew up watching them in New York when I was a kid,
Right.
And so they were talking about the Will Coxon, how they want to, well, Kenny uses it to teach. But Adam wanted to learn it. And then, Adam's an amazing drummer and all that. And so that really, like I said, after that, I'm thinking, wow, this isn't just for my student, like this isn't invisible. This is something that might help someone,
It'll reach out people like me in Montreal, for instance.
Yeah. And I didn't have any idea, because I don't do any social media at all. I'm not on anything really. And so I said, yeah, let me start doing this like more. So I did all the Will Coxon books first. And then, and I had already done the Pratt books because I use that with my students. That had been up there for a long time. I like a practice pad or whatever.
Okay.
And then I started getting more and more feedback, and it's just at one point I remember opening up my email because my emails, and I had like 50 emails a day from people.
Wow.
And then I opened up the comments on my channel,
right?
Because I never looked at them, and there was hundreds and hundreds of comments. So I just put them all up and answered what I could over time. And then I was like, wow, this is something that's real. That's actually people watch.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean,
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I thought it was just like, because I had very limited views before that, maybe 1,000 views on a couple of the Pratt things or whatever.
No, I know.
And so it wasn't, to me, it was whatever. I'm just doing it for my students if someone wants to watch it. So then I just started doing all this, and I don't know how many videos I made during the pandemic, but it's probably several hundred. Well,
I went to your statistics for your channel. You're up to 589 videos at this point.
Wow!
for your channel.
And yeah, I don't look at that. So that's a lot. Yeah. So what I do now is I just like the master studies stuff. I did that because I've seen a lot of people do it wrong.
Right.
And Joe wrote that for a reason. Basically, it's an extension of George Stone, who he studied with.
Right.
It's like stick control and accents and rebounds, then Master Studies 1, then Master Studies 2. That's how that works. And so if you knew how those guys played, it was very relaxed and loose, and none of this tight full stroke stuff that people do all wrist. And that's not how they played. And people think Joe just played with his wrists. No way. He used tons of fingers.
No, for sure, yes.
And people post that, they comment on that. They say, Joe never used any fingers. Well, I was like right there, we talked about that all the time. So anyway, I felt the need to put those things up.
Out there, yeah.
And now I'm doing the Nard book because I grew up with that book.
Hmm.
And I've always used it with students. And I went online one day to find a version of it so I didn't have to record it for a student because I was being lazy. And there was all that was on there was terrible. Not that mine is great at all, but I mean, it just wasn't right. It was very drum corps-ish.
Yeah.
And,
and that's what I mean by the beauty of your channel, if I may put an opinion, is that the information is solid. If I feel like you really know what you're talking about, for instance,
Well, it's my take on it. There's no right or wrong, but
no, I know. But
what I'm trying to do is just in the old days when I would study with these guys and they'd play pieces from Nard or Wilcoxon, and those guys studied with Wilcoxon, like Joe studied with Wilcoxon, and these other guys I studied with one guy studied with William F. Ludwig, and other guy Frank Onstall, so another great rudimental drummer. One of my teachers did. So they know how it's supposed to go. And that gets passed down that's how it works. That's the evolution of the art. And if you miss that and you start doing your own version of things and it doesn't swing or groove or have accents or the right inflection or phrasing, then you're completely missing the point and rewriting these classic books. And like the Wilcoxon book and the Pratt books and the Nard book and all that. So I'm not saying my versions are perfect. It's just that there's a tradition of this stuff, and I like to maintain that tradition of it. And also, I really believe if you have a great fundamental grasp of that, there's nothing your hands can't do. So that goes for marimba, maybe not 4-mallet marimba, but 2-mallet marimba, timpani, drum set. If you can play that stuff well, you can do anything quickly and read well, as in fact too. So yeah, but it's pretty good. But you don't know now, this COVID thing is a whole new world for everybody. So
yeah. I don't know what to say about that one because it's affected a lot of artists for sure.
Yeah. And for me, I got to say though, this is really, it's terrible to say, because my mom actually died from COVID. So,
my sympathies.
So yeah, it was early on. It was horrible, and we couldn't even go and I mean, so many people have stories just like mine. But anyway, after all that, and after months after that, I started teaching a lot online, and that was really good therapy for me because I mean, God, all these countries, I never knew. I've have students in like 20 different countries, and
very nice.
And they all speak English, a lot of them better than me. And they're wonderful, beautiful people and so talented and so excited about playing. And that's been almost a gift that I wouldn't have gotten if it wasn't for this horrible situation.
COVID, exactly.
We're all in, and that's a whole new thing. And I'm keeping that going now. I'm not going to stop because to me, that is so rewarding to teach those students and to just talk to them. Just spend 5 minutes during the lesson seeing how they're doing and what's going on in their country and like it's the greatest thing. And I'm going to travel to some of these countries once it hopefully once we can. Yeah. So that's in my future. I'm not going to stop teaching online, and I'm teaching privately again in person.
That's good.
That's nice also. I really miss doing that. So.
I want to say thank you so much for sharing. For one, virtual student, if you will, watching you from your channel and talking to you today. I thank you so much, Rick, for your time. And
thank you so much. What you're doing, I watched a lot of your videos. They're fantastic, and doing public service. So. Yeah,
well, that was my way of coping with COVID, is to talk to you all these.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, and it's like this horrible situation. So many good things have come out of it like this. So, and let me know if you have, or any of your listeners have any suggestions or ideas about things they want to see on my channel, because I'm always taking requests. I have a whole list that I go through,
Okay.
And I still have several pages of that, but I love that because a lot of times someone will have an idea and it's like, that is such a great idea. Why didn't I think of that? You know, and so that's, you know, if you have any ideas or your listeners have any ideas, that'd be great. That'd be really helpful to me.
And quickly to end, where could they tell you those ideas? Would it be the
Oh, just the email me at rickdior@gmail.com. Pretty
okay.
easy. Or they can leave a comment. If they're not comfortable doing that, then just email me. I respond to every single email. It might take me a week or so sometimes, but I make sure, and every comment that is a question, I try to respond to. So yeah, please do that. I love getting your emails, and some people write me these beautiful long stories about. I love that about their careers, and it's just fascinating. So it's great. Yeah.
Fantastic. So there you go. Thank you so much again, Rick, and
Thank you.
a great 2021 and 2022, and all the teaching and all the best to you for the.
Okay,
What's
take
coming up.
care. Stay well.
I will. Take care
Okay,
of yourself.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Let's proceed with the tonight's episode. My next guest is a drummer from Vancouver who has played with the Devin Townsend band and Devin Townsend project. His new band is I Monolith, coming up soon and is going to tour hopefully in 2022. He is also a teacher at Long and McQuaid's and online lessons, and also a motivational speaker. Let us welcome with the great joy Mr. Ryan van Poederooyen. Hello, Ryan.
Hey, amazing job with your last name. I'm telling you, I'm not just saying this, you're probably the best person who's ever pronounced it. So nice work.
Thank you. I practice all morning. Ryan, nice to meet you, sir. Thank you so much for taking the time. I mean, I'm in the East Coast and you're in the West Coast right now. You're in Vancouver right now. So thank you for taking the time. How you been?
I've been doing great, man. You know, let's just get the whole COVID thing out of the way. That's hurt the entire world, and never mind music industry. But it's been challenging, of course. But you know what? I'm a big believer that life is what you make it. So so yeah, I've you know, just cut through all the crap that's been thrown our way and making the best of it. So life's good.
Good. You're pretty busy these days, but just because you're very active, and I want to delve all into that. Of course, I'm always curious for you. When did music start? When did music caught your eye, caught your ear? How did it all start for you?
Okay, so when I was growing up, my father, he plays piano, and he played keyboards in a band, and he also was a teacher for piano. Okay. And my brother and I, whenever his cover band would do gigs, we'd go out to the different various halls that they play. We'd grab our hockey sticks, big hockey fans here. And you know, we'd just play floor hockey while Dad was sound checking. And then, you know, after every sound check, eventually, you know, I'd just sneak my way up to the stage and start tapping around on the drum kit. Showed a big interest. And then eventually, you know, his drummer's like, hey, your kid kind of has rhythm. And you know, he's like, does he play? And Dad's like, no. And then he came up and he asked me, he's like, son, do you want to try playing drums? I'm like, hit stuff like this? Yeah, let's do it, you know? And so at 10 years old, he basically came home with Stick Control, which I believe is the #1 book in the world when it comes to drumming. Everyone should learn the rudiments first. But it's Stick Control, a practice pad, pair of sticks, and a drum teacher, which was the drummer in his band. And yeah, it got me started on drums at 10 years old. Kind of late, I guess, compared to today's standards where I'm teaching 5-year-old kids how to drum, you know. But yeah, that's how it all started. And man, I never looked back. You know, it's like I was super inspired, and I knew what I wanted to do from a very young age. And you know, thankfully and with a ton of gratitude, here I am.
And that's cool. So how are you doing on stick control at that age? Because sometimes kids at that age are like, I just want to play drums and I don't want to do this book, and especially for a drum pad, which is a great foundation. But I'm just curious how you did that.
I'm very glad you asked that question, because this is a pretty unique answer. I think unique in the standard of what, you know, kids are doing today with stick control, right? But My parents did something really interesting. We had like a studio that was built into our house that my dad had built.
Oh, cool.
And but I got a single, and I don't know if you'll remember those, but they're like Remo practice pads. They're like,
I have one. Yes,
you do, right?
I have one.
Just they're like a small little 10-inch pad.
Right.
And anyways, I had that, and my dad said, "Here's the book. Here's your teacher. Here's your sticks. Show us the dedication, and you'll eventually get a drum kit." Man, I was on that practice pad for a year, just practicing stick control with my drum teacher. Like they basically made me earn the next step. And the funny thing is, 11 years old, about a year later, Dad shows up in a truck, and we didn't own a truck. I'm like, "Oh, it's my drum set," because he's like, "I got a surprise for you. It's in the back." And so he's reaching in there, and I'm going, "Oh, is it a floor tom? Is it a snare? The kick drum first?" You know? And he pulls out a set. Remember those set of Remo practice pads where they had like the set of them?
Okay, yeah. I think I remember. Yeah.
And so at first it's kind of a little bum, but then it's like, no, there's like, it's like a drum set. I'm like, cool. Yeah. So for the next year, I practiced on a set of Remo practice pads. Now fast forward to Christmas when I was 12 years old. Long story short, I'll tell you a quick little story here that's kind of funny.
No, go ahead.
Basically 2 years I've been drumming now. Stick control. I've learned beats and stuff with my drum teacher and all that, but on a practice pad kit. And Christmas shows up, and it was really weird because we always set up our Christmas tree in the living room. But this year, I mean in the rec room. But this year, the Christmas tree was set up in the living room. And Jay and I thought, my brother Jason, we thought that was a little bit weird, you know. So, but we didn't think anything of it. So, you know, wake up, typical time, young kids, 5 a.m. We're walking down the hallway through the living room, and how it works is there's the bedrooms here, then you go into the living room, then there's the kitchen, and then there's the rec room.
Okay.
So we're walking through, get into the living room, get into the kitchen, and we start hearing these really weird sounds. And I'm like, what is this? It's 5 a.m, right? Dad and Mom are sleeping because their door wasn't open. And I'm just like, we're listening. It sounds like someone's breaking into the house is what it was. Oh, yeah, it was really weird. But what it was is Dad left Christmas music on. I think the song was Silent Night, and there were like bells and things going off at the start, and it was very faint, right? But it sounded like shh, and you're like, what the heck's going on? So being the brave big brother that I am, I sent my younger brother in to go check out the scene. And man, all of a sudden they're screaming, and I'm just like, oh, it's like, holy smokes, it's like Michael Myers is in there stabbing my brother or something, it's like I'm freaking out, and he comes running out and he yells, "It's a drum set!" And I was like, push my brother out of the way. So my question to you is, what do you think a 12-year-old kid is going to do when he sees a brand new drum kit at 5 a.m?
It's going to play it.
I'm going to play the heck out of it, right? So I started playing this drum kit, and, to this day, I don't think I've ever seen my parents run that fast. And my mom's like, "I told you he would do that," and Dad's kind of laughing, but they calm me down. And long story short, that's how I learned. And like the thing that was really important is it taught me discipline. Okay. And this is a thing that I found, especially teaching students today, is, now you can get electronic kits, you can get like all these various ways that you can practice and things that you can use. And I just find it's our job as teachers to kind of teach that discipline in a new modern way, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
That's how I became a great drummer, is with all those rudiments and all the discipline and just learning the basics first. I became a really good drummer at a really young age. At 16 years old, I was playing with a bunch of 25-year-olds in the best cover band in town because I blew away every other drummer, at 16. But it's because I had all that, right? So I think it's super important. So the way that I teach is I incorporate rudiments and stick control. Every one of my students owns that book, and every one of my students practices that book every lesson. But then I also reward them with
Right.
the different beats, songs, all
Right.
that stuff, right? So, anyways, there's my story, but I'm very grateful because my parents, I think they did it the right way for me. It taught me discipline, and it made me a really good drummer when it came time to actually applying that to the drum set.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that story.
Yeah.
It's a very good story. Not, but to add, yeah, I mean, it was the same thing for me. Quickly. I don't want to spend too much time, but
No,
I had to earn my drum set. I had to work the entire like 4 months of the summer to, babysit this, mow along that, and I had just like enough money to buy that little Westbury kit that was like, or 400 some bucks, and Dad decided, okay, well, I'll add a cymbal and a hi-hat for it for another extra 100 because you've earned it. And I was looking, I mean, like I was looking at this thing going, okay, now I have it. Now, I've been playing on my legs for the past year with these, Pro Mark sticks and whatever. So yeah. So then you have that dedication, that willingness to just go, okay, I have this. It's time to practice. It's time to do this, etc. So yeah, I understand where you're coming from for sure.
Well, it's a massive inspiration too. And you know what? Here's another really quick thing about that morning. That morning, believe it or not, was the life-changing moment of my entire life. That morning was the most inspirational, motivational morning that I've had to date. And the reason why is, it was a Baxter kit. Remember Baxter?
Not familiar. Okay.
Old series. Well, I guess I'm showing my age here, right? But anyways, yeah, it was a Baxter 5-piece kit. It was actually my dad's drummer's old drum set. He got a new one, so my dad bought it off him. But when he got me off the kit, it was interesting, man. He pulled me off, and I just looked up at my dad and my mom, and I was just like, when I grow up, I'm going to be a rock star. I meant professional musician. I can't stand that term, rock star. Anyways, that's a kid talking. So I said, I'm going to grow up. I'm going to be a rock star. I got modern drummer in my stocking every year. Okay, so I'm going to be a modern drummer. I'm going to have drumsticks with my signature on them. It's like I'm going to endorse the biggest drum companies in the world. I'm going to tour the world. I'm going to play arenas, and I listed off all these things. You want to know the crazy thing, man? I've accomplished every one of those. I was a main feature on Modern Drummer in December 2014 issue with Dave Weckl. We were the two main features, and I played arenas. I played the biggest festivals in the world. I'm endorsing top drum companies. From Sonar to Sabian, Regal Tip, which I played since I was a kid. Like Evans. It's a dream come true. But that drive, that's what these kids need. That's what these up and coming drummers need, and their teachers need to give it to them. Their parents need to give it to them, but more importantly, they need to give it to themselves. They need to have that belief. They need to have that drive. They have to take action, and they can never quit towards that goal. But it's a very important thing, man. I think every drummer coming up needs to know this, is you need to have that drive. The other thing you need to do is don't listen to the critics. Oh, if you're in your mid-20s, forget it. You're never going to make it in the industry. All of that is a pile of crap. I don't care how old you are. I don't care what level of drummer you are. You can achieve everything I've done and more. You can achieve everything that Neil Peart did and more if you really put your heart into it.
For sure. Yeah.
Bottom line, don't let age or any of that stuff deter you ever.
I mean, wasn't it Morgan Freeman who started really his career? I think in his 40s or 50s or whatever it was when he got known.
That's right.
You could say, I can't remember. There's a hockey player back in the day who started like in his 20s or something for the Montreal Canadiens. Anyways, there's many examples of this. But yeah, exactly. Well, it's interesting that you talk about that, because there is a post that you made on Facebook where you basically talk of 3 different actions, which is believe in yourself, take action, and persevere, which is exactly what you're talking about.
I just mentioned them, and that was a recent post. Yeah, I just did that post, and it's funny because I had, like, my inbox on Facebook and Instagram, it loaded up with people just asking. The cool thing too is I take the time to actually answer these people when I get a chance, right? But yeah, you know, it's like people right away, they're like, oh, a lot of the questions that came from that, it seems so basic. I go, exactly, and people don't do it because believing in yourself is one of the biggest faults that people have. They're like, oh, that's what I really want. Yeah, but what you really want versus believing that you can actually do it are two different things.
Right. Having that dream in your head, and you're going, oh, but then sort of sitting on your chair going, and not taking action or sort of stopping because of certain details, like, well, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And it's like, well, just try it. Just try it and see.
You just nailed it. So let's get into this quickly. This is what I talk about in my motivational seminars. I call these the big three because there's 9 principles that I abide by my entire life to get to where I am now. Okay, but those are the 3 big ones. Okay, now with those principles, the thing is people have this big dream, but the problem is they attach themselves to the details of how they're going to get to that dream. 2 mistakes there. Never attach yourself to the details. Okay, and I'll give you an example. When I said when I was younger, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to be a rock star, I did not say when I grow up at the age of 29 years old, I'm going to meet Devin Townsend and I'm going to be a rock star. You know, you can't do that, man. You can't sit there and say, I'm going to be the drummer for Motley Crue. I'm going to be the drummer for Rush. You know, I'm going to be the drummer for, you can't talk about any of that stuff. What you do is you throw it out there. You're vague. Let the universe do its job. Things happen for a reason. You know, you get connected to the right people. You never know where life's going to take you to get you that gig. Okay. So the bottom line is put it out there. Don't be, don't attach yourself to the details. The next thing that you mentioned is people think about it and they're like, holy smokes, I want to tour arenas. I want to, get endorsements. I want my name on my drumstick. It's like, where do I even begin? And that's where they usually give up. Okay. I have something in exercise in my motivational seminars. Principle number 4 that I teach people is set goals. Now, the problem with people is they have this goal that's up here, right? And then they're like, how am I going to achieve this? You know, you say, set yourself a 5-year plan. Everyone's heard that in business. Yeah. What's your 5-year goal, right? They look at it and then they look at the 5-year goal and they're like, how do I even comprehend getting there? And then most people give up at that point because they're like, this is just insane. Like,
well, it's like looking at the mountain and saying, I want to get to that tip.
Yep.
Without figuring out that the bottom, the midpoint and
the base. Yeah. And it's like Mount Everest. Yeah. People are like, oh, I'm not, but people have conquered it. They've done it. It's achievable. Anything is literally achievable. If we're sending people to Mars, trust me, man, becoming a professional musician ain't rocket science. That's some news for you guys. It's like, seriously. Yeah. So when it comes down to it, the big thing is set goals. The 4 or 5s that I came up with. This is a goal setting thing that I recommend anyone who watches this, try this. You will guarantee get results as long as you take action and you believe in yourself, but set goals and persevere doing this. What it is I set goals for 5 days. Every 5 days up until a 5-week period, then I have my 5-week goal. Now I'm setting goals for every 5 weeks to 5 months. And I have my 5-month goal. And I keep on repeating these different goals that I keep on setting for 5 years. So 5 days for 5 weeks for 5 months to 5 years. And mathematically, it all works out, because it's 60 months, right? All this, you think about it, you do it. Hey, it's like drumming, it's like time signatures. Okay, so but the bottom line is if you keep yourself achieving smaller goals, next thing you know, you're sitting in an arena going, holy crap.
How did I get here? Yeah. You got here because you did those small goals. Yeah.
So set small goals, guys. Don't set the big ones. Network. Get your websites going. Have a dedicated Facebook artist page. Have a dedicated, lots of people, my drummers, my students, they'll sit there who are like in their 20s or whatever. They're like, oh, well, I shouldn't start an artist page. That's for guys like you. I'm like, that's for anyone. When you start an artist page, do it just like me. Pretend that you're actually doing what I do and treat it like that. Because the more that you do it, the more you're putting yourself in a position to be there. You know? And when you do get there, you aren't going to have to really learn the ropes. You've been doing it for years. So, like, don't be scared. This is the problem, is we're told what we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to do. Ignore all of that. Do what you want to do. Do it your own way. Don't listen to anyone. You have one life to live. So always do your best and do what you want to do. Plain and simple.
I thank you all for that. I do want to take some time because you do have some interesting projects, and we do want to delve into those. Which of course is the one that you were associated with for a long time, which is Devin Townsend band and then project.
Yeah.
So talk to me a bit about how that happened. You were saying I think you were 29 when you joined the band.
This is a long story, and I'm really shortening it. But after a while, I finally cracked that nut, and I got into the bigger studios in town, and people started getting to know me. So now people know RVP as a teacher. People know RVP as a session artist. People know RVP because of all these bands that I was in. I started this band called God Awakens Petrified, and it was like a metal band and really popular. We're packing like 500-600 seat venues in Vancouver and selling them out, right? And so we got a really good name for ourselves. And then, anyways, 29 years old, about to turn 30, and I'm sitting at home. I think it's August of 2002, and my phone rings. I pick it up. I'm like, "Hello, is Ryan there?" "Yeah, it's Ryan." "Yeah, this is Devin Townsend." I'm like, "Right."
he was known before he started the band. He was quite
he's very famous. He's
exactly
DFK, and he'd already had massive success with Strapping Young Lad. So he was doing well for himself. So I'm just like, and he's the biggest dude in Vancouver when it comes to metal. There's no one bigger. You know, and I was just like, holy, I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" And he's like, "I want you to try out for my band." And I was just like, holy smokes, okay, yeah, let's do this. And I remember talking to him, you know, I got the gig and everything. But when I was talking to him, like, how'd you get my number or know about me? He goes, I went to all my producer friends. I went to musicians. I went to, you know, just everyone that he knew in the industry in town. He said, man, he goes, every single person that I went to, they'd mention a couple guys, but you were the only name where every time, "Hey, have you heard this RVP guy? Hey, have you heard from Ryan from God Awakens Petrified? Dude, check out Ryan, man. Poederooyen, he's crazy, man." Blah, blah, blah. He said every time, and one of the last people he said that he asked was Gene Hoglan, because I was taking over drum duties for Gene Hoglan from all the solo stuff that he'd recorded for Devin on Infinity and Terria and all Physicists, all that stuff. And so I was just like, wow, you know, and anyways, Devin asked Gene, and Gene mentioned a couple of guys. He goes, "You know, no, Daddy-O, there's this guy that I saw drumming with this band, God Awakens Petra. I think they call him RVP." And he's like, "Okay, I got to call this guy." Right? So that's how I got the gig. He called me up, and it ties back to everything else that I was just talking about in this interview, right? I persevered. I took action in how many different ways? Okay. And I never stopped believing that I would get that opportunity. I didn't know what it would be. I was thinking it would be God Awakens Petrified because we were talking to record labels at the time too. So, but unfortunately, you know, it never panned out for that band. But then Devin came along and I got that gig, and, you know, the rest is history, right? Started out with Devin Townsend band, and then that took a break for a couple of years, and Devin Townsend project came out. And I achieved all my dreams. All of them.
Yeah, it's very nice. I mean, I think you have 8 albums that you recorded.
It's 8 albums, and then there's like another 4 live albums that I recorded as well.
Very cool. Very quickly, how do you guys do a song? How do you create a song? Is it Devin arrives with all the stuff already prepared, or you jam it and you figure out your parts? How does it work?
Yeah, with Devin, it was very organized. It was Devin came in with everything. And he'd be like, "Here," you know, and like he'd give me, for the first 7 records, he gave me like very loose, like, "Here's some drum machines, but do your thing to it." You know, and lots of times for example, on the album Epic Cloud, there's a song called Grace, and he came in with the drum beat, and I was like, oh man, this sounds like one of your old songs. It's just slowed down and you're putting the snare on 2 and 4 instead. I'm just like, I don't know. And he goes, well, and so I took the time, a half an hour break while I was teaching at Long McQuaid, and I came up with a completely different groove. And then I came up with it in 20 minutes, and it was the groove, which is now for the song Grace. Nice. And then I took a video of myself. I sent it to Devin. And I was like, what do you think? And he's like, holy crap, this is awesome. And I said, yeah, match the guitars to that. And bam, Bob's your uncle, right? And that's how that came out. So it was really cool to work with, in the sense that he gave me lots of personal freedom to change things or to do things or suggest things. And then he would produce it, right? But the very last album we recorded, Transcendence, that was written kind of as a band, which was really, really cool. It was really fun. So, you know, we have songwriting credits all throughout that record. But, you know, through other records, like on Epic Cloud and Dick and different stuff like that, I had songwriting credits too, because he let me have my own freedom. So it was really cool.
Very nice. And what about your sound? How do you achieve your sound for the recordings and for the live shows? It's just, I think, if I may, I believe it is a metal sound, but I like, it has a roundness still to it. It's not too compressed or not too just attack and nothing else to it. And I like that, because I'm from the jazz world and I just love a round sound. So I don't know if I'm off by that, but that's kind of what I picked up from your drum sound. So talk to me about your drum sound. Yeah,
you're very intuitive with that. I'll give you that, man. It's very true, because I am not a fan of samples whatsoever. I am not. I want a real drum sound. Here's how I get my drum sound. This is, I think, is very important answer. This is my opinion, of course. You know how you get your drum sound is this: your wrists, your ankles, your feet. Okay, it's the connection that you have with your instrument. Yes, there's mic placement. There's all that. For example, you could put all the mic placement on my Sonar drum set. Okay, and I play Sonar SQ2s, which are beautiful, beautiful drums. Okay, and we can tune up my Evans heads perfectly. We can do everything the same. You jump on my kit.
I don't sound like you.
You're gonna make my kit sound great, but you're gonna make it sound like you. When I jump on that kit, same everything, it's gonna sound radically different, and it's gonna sound like me. Okay, that's the thing that people need to realize. If there's one thing that you want to do, if you want a beautiful drum sound, here's how you get it. Choose gear that you truly feel suits you as a drummer, suits you. It has to be, when you hit that tom, and I can go up and I can hit a Yamaha custom maple, hit it, and it's a beautiful drum set. And then I'll go hit my SQ2 and I'm like, yeah, sorry, Yamaha, this is where I'm at. And Yamaha are beautiful drums, gorgeous drums. There's nothing wrong with them. But you know what? Out of everything I ever played, when I first hit a Sonar kit when I was 18 years old, I knew right then and there, these are the drums. Oh my God, these sound absolutely phenomenal. Just couldn't afford them. So I ended up buying a Pearl kit, and I endorsed Pearl actually for 12 years, the first 12 years of my career. But then I switched in 2015, 2016 to Sonar, because that was always my dream. And but to get that sound, guys, yeah, obviously learn how to tune, learn how to do all these things. Great technique is everything. You know, it's like, yes, all these, you know, things add up to what get your drum sound. But truly, the connection between you and your instrument and how you choose that instrument is really going to detail that. As far as the roundness and everything that you get with your drum sound, basically, I don't like using samples. That takes away from that. I tune my top head and bottom head even. They're the exact same tuning.
Yeah.
That way you're getting the natural tone of that drum. That's how that drum is actually supposed to sound. And I want that natural resonance. So I don't want to cut it off. I'm not going to tune it lower so, you know, it deadens it. I want that full tone of the drum. And whenever I worked with engineers, I'm like, I need to hear that resonance. Please don't EQ it. Just leave it flat and let's work with it after that.
I'm championing your way of thinking about it, because that's how I feel about it as well. Because if you start from a dead sound, you're kind of dead in the water. If you want more roundness in the mix, if you want more of this in the mix, you're kind of dead. You got to go get a sample X or whatever, or change it a bit, or add whatever, EQ to it. And that's so. Yes, I 100%.
The more that you change it going to tape, you're screwed, because all you're doing is taking away all these possibilities. It's nothing different than what I talked about, in achieving your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
If you have this, and then you're like, oh, let's throw some bottom end in here. Oh, let's cut the highs here. Oh, let's cut the mids here. Let's do this. Next thing you know, you're left with this.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you go to mixing, what can you take away from this? You can't take away nothing from nothing.
No, exactly.
So if you go into mixing with this, you have all of this to work with. So yeah,
no, I agree 100%. Very cool. I think we could continue on and on with that, but I do want to continue very quickly. I think one of your faves songs from that project was Planet of the Apes, which you do a playthrough for Drumeo. It is quite a song. You do a lot in that song. I implore people to go check it out. It's very cool. I mean, from those triplets between the feet and the toms to those change from the snares. I mean, it's all over the place. It's very cool. How long did it take you to come up with those parts?
That's a very interesting song, and it's a great question, because it's actually not what you're expecting. When I went into that was an album called Deconstruction from Devin Townsend Project, and Planet of the Apes, believe it or not, was four different songs. So I actually learned those 4 songs. But what had happened is I recorded them all separate. And then Devin asked me while we were in the studio, hey, can you do some transitional drum fills? Just spontaneous, like just go for it. And I was like, okay. And so I did that. I had no idea why, but he'd make me do it to the click track. And anyways, what it was is he put all 4 songs together, and it became Planet of the Apes. So when I heard it on the record, I'm like, what's this Planet of the Apes? And it's like 11 minutes, and I played on it. I don't remember that, and I listened to it. It's like, oh wow. He's like, yeah, we're gonna play it live too. That in July. I was just like, oh my god. So I had to relearn everything that I played, but because it was put together by Devin and edited in such a way to fit as a whole song. Yeah, it was actually, that was the hardest song I've ever had to learn. That was my own drumming. So,
yeah, it's a new song. It's basically a completely new song. Yeah,
it was, and 11 minutes long, right? So, but that's how that came together, and yeah, it's a really fun song. I actually really enjoy playing it. That's why I played it at Drumeo, is because I did a time signature lesson with Drumeo, and I thought, well, here's a perfect example of time signatures, because there's a million of them in that song. So yeah, it was a fun song to play, and it's a pretty cool take. I like the take that I did at Drumeo.
Yeah, it's very, very nice. I implore people to go check it out. So just quickly, what happened with that project? Did it end? Did you just wanted to move to something new?
With Devin Townsend?
Yeah.
Devin Townsend Project in 2018, Devin actually put it on hiatus at first, but yeah, I think he was always wanting to end it. Like he kind of has a track history of that, where Scrappy Young Lad, he did that too. Devin Townsend Band, he did that too. It's like, and we all felt in Devin Townsend Project it was going to come to an end at some point. And there's nothing wrong with that, because Devin's an amazing person. He's absolutely talented and incredible at what he does. But everything does come to an end at some point. Bands break up, and Devin is such a creative person. He loves working with different people that I was even surprised Devin Townsend Project lasted that long. That was the longest thing he's ever done, and probably will be the longest thing he'll ever do. Because even now, he's just over the past few years, he's played with so many different people live and everything too. So it's like he disbanded it, and I was prepared for it. I'd been writing music for a few years from 2015 up until that point, in preparation of like, if this goes, then I have something. And that music was actually the band that I started, called A Monolith.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about it. I mean, I think you started to form it 2018 and recording since then.
Yeah, 2018 when Devin, when he disbanded Devin Townsend project, I called up the bass player in Devin Townsend project, Brian Beef, we call him, and we were always buddies hanging out on the road. You always have your road buddies. Brian and I we did stuff together all the time when we were on the road, right? So we decided writing music. There was a connection there, and you know, I'll never forget. Devin called me, and yeah, I'm breaking up the band. Cool. Got off the phone and I called Beef. Okay, let's do this, man. Literally the same day. I'm like,
there you go.
I'm ready to go. Let's do it. And you know what? The funny thing is, a lot of people are like, "Oh, it must have been such a hard day." I'm like, not at all. I prepared myself for this. You know, it's like I knew it was coming. It's just a question of when.
When? Okay.
You know, everyone in the band knew that. They felt it. You know, it's like, and again, I back Devin because that's his personal creative outlook on things. He just wants to keep evolving and doing things with different people. So
right, exactly.
I didn't feel bad, and we're still friends. I still email, we still keep in touch. It's all good. It's like I commend him on that, right? But at that point, I was like, I knew it was coming. I'd been writing for 3 years. That's how long I knew it was coming for. So you know, we just went into it. We transitioned, got a bunch of music, put a band together, recorded it. And yeah, the unfortunate thing is we recorded our album in 2019, March 27th, 2020. We're releasing the album and starting a headlining tour of all of Europe and the UK.
Yeah.
You know, like everything was set up perfectly. Bam, COVID hit. Literally, we canceled the tour 9 days before it was about to start because that's when Canada got hit bad in mid-March.
Yeah.
Shut everything down. I'm grateful though that we weren't already over there because that would have been scary.
Yeah, that would have been quite the adventure to just come back to Canada. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, we canceled everything, and that tour is finally going to happen 2 years later.
Yeah.
April, May of 2022, we're going out on our headlining tour to support that album. We have a brand new EP that we recorded that's going to be released in early 2022 as well. And
cool.
So now we're going to have two pieces of music, two albums to support while we're on tour, which is great.
And the album is called State of Being, if I'm correct.
Right. State of Being is our full-length album, and our EP is called Progressions. And
cool.
yeah, I came up with that name, and I'm sure after this interview you can understand where that came from. You know, it's like, but yeah, the name Progressions, it's showing progressions in music. You know, I'm progressing from the different bands we're in, progressing from COVID. You know, just being able to look at life and life's intangibles and go, yeah, bring it. Exactly. I don't care, man. You can throw anything at me. You know what? I'm going to conquer it. I'll get through it. It doesn't matter. You know,
I think in all what from what I'm hearing from this interview is just like in that, you know, not to be cliche, but from the jump Van Halen, you know, roll with the punches, basically, if you will. Just whatever comes out your way, you'll deal with it. You have the confidence basically to deal with it. Yeah.
You know, it's like, it doesn't matter. Do what you love and love what you do every single day. That's that. It doesn't matter. If you do that, you're going to live an awesome life. If you're a musician and you're doing these weekend gigs and you truly love it, and that's what you want because you got a great job and a family that you love and life is great, then your life is as good as mine.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. Yeah. I would continue on and on, but we got to stop at some point. Right?
Yeah, no worries, man.
Quickly, talk to me about where they can reach you, about iMonolith, and everything that people can reach you if they want to reach out to you. Yeah,
so I'm very active on all my social media. Instagram, I got my artist page. I have a personal page on Facebook, but that's just for me, you know, my close friends and family. and musician friends around the world. But then there's my artist page. That's the one that have me, follow me, and all the good stuff with music, drums, and all that stuff is on that page.
Cool.
And I got a Twitter page as well, and of course I have my YouTube page, which I load up. You can see all the Drumeo videos I did there, all the playthroughs for a Monolith and Devin Townsend project. I got a ton of live Devin Townsend project stuff, like probably 4 different versions of me playing Planet of the Apes live, and lots of cool stuff on YouTube. So subscribe to that. You ever want to reach me? I did have a website, rvpdrums.com. It's down right now because I'm going to revamp it and re-release it, but it's not happening right now. But I will get that going again. But if you ever want to reach me, Instagram or my Facebook artist page are probably the best places to go.
Awesome. I wish you the best, sir. I wish you that tour with I'm on a Lift that goes super well. And thank you so much, man. Seriously, that's a great talk I've had. It's very inspirational. Thank you so much. Yeah,
I know. And thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure doing this stuff. I love that it's a Canadian.
Yes.
Come on, we got to stick together as Canadians.
Yes. And we have a lot of talent. Seriously, this is my 3rd season. It's amazing how much talent we have in this country. It's crazy.
It's incredible, right? And there's a lot of amazing drummers, up and coming drummers. I'm very, very grateful for the country I live in, the people in it, and it's amazing. But thank you so much for having me on here. And like I said, another thing too, for anyone interested in actual online lessons worldwide, I actually have a couple students in Montreal that I teach. Again, you can reach me at Instagram or my Facebook artist page if you're interested. Hit me up and we can talk about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I wish you a great next rest of the day, and hope to see you on tour.
100%. And when I come to Montreal, reach out and we'll meet. I'll get you in. We'll check out the show and we'll hang out backstage, man.
Awesome, Aaron. Thank you so much, sir. Have a great day.
You as well. Bye-bye.
Ciao. So that's our show for tonight. Thank you so much to my guests. Thank you so much to you. Come back next week for more of Drumfills Cafe. Until then, I wish you all the best and stay safe and see you next week. Ciao.